Jet guitars have really taken off in the past few years. Now this brand, which is based in Slovenia here in Europe, has quietly been going under the radar with a bunch of electric guitars that seem to be way more than the sum of their parts. They're very much affordable instruments, including this one here, the JT-350 Telecaster inspired model, and well, they seem in some ways to be too good to be true. Is that the reality? That's what we're about to find out in this video. I'm going to take the JT-350 on a test flight for you. It's just landed at Richwords Music Towers, and we'll go through every facet of the guitar in this video. I'll start by telling you about the specs and the features of the instrument, then we'll play it in as many different musical styles as I can manage today, and afterwards I'll give you a few more in-depth opinions about the JT-350 because I've had it on loan now from Jet to make this video for a few weeks. I've played it a lot in that time and I do have quite a lot to say about it, so stick around for that. Timestamps to everything is going to be down there in the comments and the description if you'd like to move to the part of the video that suits you best. But let's kick it off with some information and some specs and features about the JT-350. So this guitar is officially called the JT-350 SBR, and I'm assuming that SB stands for Sunburst, as in this lovely sunburst finish here, and the R is going to stand for Rosewood, as in the fingerboard on this guitar. Now, as of time of filming, summer 2025, the JT-350 has a recommended retail price on the Jet Guitars website of €381, which prices it firmly below something like a Squier Classic Vibe, and it's going to be kind of similarly priced to the higher end models from brands like Harley Benton and so on. Having said that, this might be a recommended retail price of €381, but you can find it for less in the shops. I've just had a bit of a Google around, and in the USA I found it for $350, and in Europe about $350. And in the UK I found it for less than £300. So at the moment the Brits are getting a bargain on this guitar, although of course prices may go up or down or fluctuate at any point in time. So check your local dealer to find out the prices of this specific guitar whenever you're watching this video. Now, like I said, on paper we've got some very impressive specs for this instrument. We'll start with the looks. We've got this beautiful sunburst finish, which is really deep, rich and elegant. It's a 3-color sunburst. I really like it. We've got binding on the body too, and a lovely tortoiseshell scratch plate here that really juxtaposes well against that finish and the binding. It's a beautiful, elegant, aesthetically pleasing guitar, at least to me. Now, underneath that finish we have a basswood body, and on the top of the guitar, well, it looks like a fairly standard Tele, but we've got a humbucking pickup in the neck. Now, the pickups in this guitar are by Jet themselves. We've got that humbucker in the neck and a Telecaster single coil in the bridge, and the bridge, by the way, is a Wilkinson chrome bridge with 6 saddles in the modern style. We've got a 3-way selector switch here and a standard Telecaster control plate with volume and tone. However, we have a little extra here. Pull up the tone control just like this, and you split that bridge humbucker down into single coil mode, and that's going to give us extra sounds out of this guitar. A split neck sound, rather like a standard Telecaster, and a split middle sound as well. So we've got all your standard Telecaster tones plus humbucking sounds as well. So very much a versatile beast. If I move us round to the back of the guitar here, again, what a beautiful finish, and you can see from the light there that we've got a big tummy cut here on this guitar, and we've also got better upper fret access courtesy of this cutaway on the lower horn than you would expect from a traditional Fender Telecaster style of guitar. String through body here and a nice modern looking 4-bolt neck joint there as well. If we move up to the neck of the guitar, again we have very impressive specs for the money. Look at this here. This is roasted Canadian maple. It's a beautiful satin finish, feels really nice and slick in the hand, and that's topped by a 22 fret rosewood fingerboard. Now, Jet don't tell us anywhere on their website or in the specs what size the frets are, but to me they look and feel like a pretty standard medium jumbo. Now, the shape of the neck here is a pretty nice modern C shape. It's very smooth feeling as well with that satin finish, and in terms of size it's not going to be too chunky for anybody, nor is it going to be too thin for anybody either. And the fingerboard radius is 9.5 inches, so again pretty modern feeling but not super flat. I don't think it's going to offend anybody. We've got a 25.5 inch scale length here, so if you know your standard Fender Telecaster scale lengths, well, it's going to be the same as that. And the nut here, well, up to February 2025 Jet were offering bone nuts on this guitar, but since February 2025 they have a polymer fiber nut on them. I suspect that this one is a more modern polymer fiber one because it doesn't look like any of the bone nuts that I've got on any of my other guitars, but we'll see how it performs in the playing part of the video. And moving up to the headstock there, well, it's a pretty Telecaster-esque sort of headstock, but with a bit of Jet's own idiosyncrasies to it. And on the back of the headstock, we have 6-in-line Jet-branded locking tuners. So for about 350 bucks, that's an awful lot of guitar for the money. How does the JT-350 perform? Well, that's what we're going to find out now, and I'll tell you whether this economy price ticket is worthy of a first-class seat after we've played some music with it. Now, my rig for today is going to be my Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 amp head, along with some of my favorite pedals to spice the tones up a bit, and we'll start with the most pristine of cleans and edge the gain up gradually until we're in dropped D, kind of modern metal sort of settings, and we'll see how versatile this guitar truly is. Enough talk though, this is the Jet Guitars JT-350 SBR. Let's play it now and we'll speak in a bit more detail about it afterwards. Okay then, so that was the Jet Guitars JT-350 SBR, and I hope you enjoyed the playing, the riffs and the tones. Please leave me a comment down there telling me what you think of this guitar. Do you think it competes with something like a Squier Classic Vibe or something like a higher level Harley Benton sort of an instrument? Is it better than that, worse than that? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I look forward, as usual, to getting a bit of a discussion going. But now it's time for me to give you a few more in-depth opinions from my side about this guitar. Like I said in the intro, Jet Guitars sent me the JT-350 a few weeks ago to make this video with, and I was very taken with this particular model because, being a Telecaster with a humbucker in the neck and a single coil in the bridge with a coil split on the humbucker too, it's very similar in a certain number of ways to my main squeeze, my 2014 Fender Mexican Ocean Blue Candy Telecaster, so I really wanted to see how the two match up. And by the way, there will be a direct comparison video of those two guitars and a couple of others coming up at some point in the future, so watch out for that. But I was really interested to try this one out, especially for the price, because this can be had at the moment for about 350 euros where I live. So on getting this guitar out of the box, my first impressions were that I was pretty much blown away with the way that this guitar looks. I'm a huge fan of Sunburst finishes when they're done well, and this one has been done really well. I think the tortoiseshell guard goes really well with it too, and I love the fact that we've got binding on the top of the body here as well. And I was also pleased to see a rosewood fingerboard on this guitar. Always a pleasure to get one of those on a guitar at this sort of of a price point. But the first time I picked up the JT-350, weirdly, the thing that it reminded me the most of was a Fender Elite Telecaster that I must have tried 6-7 years ago or something like that. I was kind of in the market for one of those guitars back then, although I never bonded with one that I tried, so I never bought one. But those were kind of a modern meets classic sort of Tele, a bit like what the JT-350 is. You've got the classic Telecaster sort of an aesthetic, but you've got a humbucking neck pickup and you've got a modern feeling and modern playing neck as well. And that was what the Fender Elite did, and the Fender Elite also had a nice big tummy cut on the back of the body too. But like I said, I never bonded enough with one of those to spend nearly 2,000 euros on it back in the day. And this Jet at about 350, well, that's a good sign if it's reminding me of that guitar that cost at least 5 times as much. Now, the other thing that I noticed when I picked up this guitar for the first time was that we have a very decent weight going on. This specific one weighs 3.33 kilograms. That's about £7.5. Anything under £8 for me is a win in my book. And with an affordable guitar, they're often boat anchors these days, that's a very, very decent weight to have. So I was pleased straight out of the box, and then I started to look at the build quality of the instrument. And as usual, for a sub $500 or Euro guitar, you're looking for things that aren't quite right with an instrument. And this one feels great in pretty much every respect. I think the finish and the guitar itself in general has been done really well. I can't find any obvious flaws in the Sunburst finish or in any of the rest of the build whatsoever. And the hardware really seems to be kind of step up from what you'd expect for the price. These are Jet branded tuners, but they're locking tuners nonetheless. I think that's great. Up to February 2025, you would have had a bone nut. That would have been even better. Polymer fiber seems to be doing the job for me so far. And we've got this Wilkinson bridge as well. I'm a big fan of Wilkinson products, having known and worked with Trev for many years. And well, this is a very decent modern Telecaster style of bridge. The rest of the electronics and everything seems to work just as you would expect it to. And in terms of the build quality then, no problems whatsoever. And then, starting playing the guitar, the playability matches up too. This is a beautiful neck to behold. I love the Canadian roasted maple look and feel as well. This has a really nice profile to it. The 22 frets have been done really well. The setup was great straight out of the box. No problems whatsoever. And I really like a nice modern feeling Telecaster to play. And this guitar's body, well, a standard Telecaster is a big fat slab, but we've got these tummy cuts here to make it even more ergonomic. So what's not to like? In the build quality and playability stakes, this guitar scores really highly. And the other crucial thing to talk about is the sounds and the pickups in this instrument. Now, we've got Jet's own Alnico pickups in the JT-350, and I was kind of intrigued as to how would they perform before I got to plug in. But as soon as I did, I realized I didn't need to have any worries. Let me know your thoughts on the tones of this guitar in the comments, but I think that this guitar sounds really, really decent for a wide variety of musical styles. Now, with the Tele style guitar, for me, it's really important to have bite and twang in the bridge pickup, but not too much shrillness, no ice picky sort of high frequencies, and this guitar doesn't suffer from any of that. And with a Telecaster, I guess I probably got to whisper this, I'm kind of always a bit disappointed with a Tele single coil neck pickup. That's why I put a wide range humbucker into my beloved 2014 Fender Telecaster, and I'm pleased to say that this guitar has a Jet humbucker in it straight out of the gate, and it does a really decent job as well. Now, it's kind of not super matched to the bridge pickup in that I feel like it's a very classically low outputty sort of a humbucker. It's very warm and jazzy almost, and it kind of is a big difference when you flick directly between the two. But when you're playing clean, no problem. You can coil split the humbucker and you get much more twangy tones out of the neck pickup as well. Move between the two pickups together and with the humbucker side engaged, well, it's beautiful for playing any sort of music in a clean style. Country, folk, pop, rock, and so on and so on. Split it down and you get a thinner sound with not too much of a volume drop, and it just works for pretty much anything. I also love a bit of gain with my T-type guitars though, and we spice things up first with my Greer Lightspeed for some indie and alternative rock, and then with my Marshall 1959 Super Lead pedal for some classic rock a la AC/DC and Airbourne and so on. And this guitar excels for both of those things. Great aggressive indie rock tones with the bridge pickup here, but never too shrill or anything like that. Great amounts of clarity always, and bite and bounce, really, really like that. And doing the AC/DC sort of stuff, well, you got a lot of oomph from this guitar, and I really found that I had the gain controls on the pedal down much lower than I had originally expected. Now again, with the neck humbucker on this guitar, it's quite a classic, almost woolly sounding humbucker. It's great for blues rocky sort of stuff, but I would split that down if you want a bit more clarity. After that, we tried some harder rock sounds courtesy of my Friedman BEOD Deluxe pedal, and the JT-350 responded beautifully to that as well. It's great for classic hard rock stuff, it's great for glam rock stuff as well, and it's really good as a punk and heavy alternative rock guitar as well. Superb crispness and clarity from this bridge Tele style pickup again. Great for doing fast palm muting with power chords for punk rock a la Green Day or Blink-182 and so on. And when you go to the neck humbucker, well, again, it's woolly and not that tight, but it's a beautiful sort of amp imploding on itself sort of a sound for some lead melodies and stuff like that, and a lot of sustain going on as well. Finally, we went down to drop D and we used my Rev G3 distortion pedal for that, and well, the JT-350 can handle that no problem at all. I think a Telecaster is a really great guitar for metal stuff, really mean sounding and without the flubby low end of something like a Les Paul or something like that. And in fact, this guitar would function beautifully with a Les Paul in a double pairing in a metal band, I think. But great clarity again. You hear all of the 6 notes in a distorted chord with this guitar, and it works great for that as well. So this really is an all-terrain sort of guitar in terms of the music that you can play with it. And the jet pickups might not be the very best that you're ever going to hear, but they sound more than good enough for absolutely anything, and I have no problems with them whatsoever. So full marks in terms of the tones. But if you've been watching this video and you're wondering what other similar guitars are going to be out there in terms of price point and in terms of style, well, I think the #1 competitor to the JT-350 is going to be the original, and in this case that's the Squier Classic Vibe range of Telecaster. There are a number of options there, including Tele customs with a neck humbucker and a bridge single coil, but the Classic Vibe range has made so many different Tele models over the years that the world is going to be your oyster there, really. Now, I think you're probably going to have to get a second-hand one, a used one, if you're going to be after something for a similar sort of price as the JT-350, as new ones are about $100 or €100 more expensive than this model currently is. But Squier Classic Vibes are always great guitars, and I can always heartily recommend those. Try them out though to make sure you get one which isn't too heavy and which has a fairly decent setup straight out of the box. Otherwise, in terms of other brands, I would say that the JT-350 kind of sits quite similarly compared to some of the Harley Benton Fusion T Telecaster styles of guitars. Those are the higher end sort of Harley Benton guitars with better specifications than the cheaper ones. Again, they're going to be slightly more metal guitars than the JT-350 by their DNA, but they're a similar sort of thing if you'd like to go in that direction, and they're going to have a more modern feeling neck than something like the Squier Classic Vibe guitars. Otherwise, you could try something like the Larry Carlton T3, which is for me a bit of an unknown quantity, but they look like very decent guitars indeed for about $400, €400. Or if you want to take the step up and have the full-on name on your headstock, well, the newish Fender Standard range has a Telecaster for about $599 or €599, so that's always going to be worth checking out as well. But at the end of the day, I have to say that I'm a massive fan of the Jet JT-350. This is the first Jet guitar that I've ever spent more than 5 or 10 minutes with, and it's blown me away by how good it is at so many different things. And it really is a great wingman for any genre, for any style of music. And I think if you're playing gigs with this and you need to cover a lot of different styles, you'll have no problem with this guitar whatsoever. Now, for me personally, I think this guitar looks great. I think it plays really nicely. I love the profile of this satin roasted maple neck and this rosewood board. Really, really comfortable to get up and down and really inspiring to play as well. I think the Jet pickups sound really decent too, and for that price, for sub $350 or euros, it's pretty much a no-brainer. So if you're looking for a T-style guitar at this sort of a price point, I would highly recommend that you get the JT-350 onto your list to try out. Is this the best T-style guitar for under about $500? Well, it's definitely in there in the conversation. So look out on my channel in future for a few comparisons between this guitar and a few other similar T-style instruments at different price points. That's coming at some point in the future. But I hope that this video has answered all of the questions you may have had about the JT-350. If there's anything else you'd like to know, let me know down there in the comments and I shall do my best to answer you. And if you'd like to see me try any more Jet guitars in future, similarly, let me know down there in the comments and I shall get in touch with Jet and see if we can't get that sorted at some point in the future. Now, if you're still around, it would really make my day if you wanted to like the video or maybe even sub to my channel, because that really does help. But that's been it for today. I've been Rich and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.